14 summoners voted, Zodiark was born, the first primal fractured the ether. What if their prayers doomed it, not saved it? The sea of light shudders beneath Venat's palm, Elpis trembles. A crack splits the heavens not from war, sin, or rage, but longing. Meteion's return proved the cost, a god reborn, a world unmade. Mortals beg for miracles, light ignoring what the sky must shudders beneath consumed to Venat's grintham palm. The ether trembles, breathes, it answers not with mercy, but hunger. What if the 14 gods you splits the prey to are not heavens not from war some owners voted listeners, but liaisons born of your yearning, to or devour rage what they were meant to bless, primal forges them. The what if cost, weakness their dooms. Hydaelyn, Zodiark, Meteion all were kindled not by celestial will, but by prayers that outlived their purpose. Faith is a fire, left unchecked it burns the hands that fed it. The primals are not saviors or scourges, they are the shape of your hopes given flesh, twisted by the cost of their making. Every hymn, every plea, every whispered wish carves a hollow in the world. The ether does not create, it compels, it demands sacrifice. What do you name a god who cannot hear your prayers because they are what made them? What world remains when the thing you worshipped was never meant to live? The convocation of 14 did not summon Zodiark as a weapon, they summoned a wound. Their unanimous vote to bind the void's chaos into a body of light was not an act of hubris, but of desperation. A world drowning in war needed a god. It got a storm. The Encyclopedia Eorzea records Zodiark's wars not as a villain's crusade, but as a child's tantrum colossal, inevitable, and born of pain. The primal's rage was not malice. It was the echo of a prayer too vast to be contained. The Ascians, in their cold calculus, understood this cycle. Their rejoinings project was no act of rebellion. It was an autopsy on faith. By fracturing Aetheres and scattering its fragments across time, they sought to undo what the convocation had wrought, a universe where longing births gods. Yet their solution resembly through mass sacrifice eyes no less sacrilege. To resurrect the ancients, they weaponized the same hunger that forged Zodiark. The dead are not their goal, the balance of creation is. Final Fantasy Roman 14 Endwalker scenario does not ask who is right, it asks who is more broken. The war for the source is not a battle between good and evil. It is a reckoning between two mirrored sins, the God made by prayer and the God made by erasure. Every primal is a hymn turned dirge, every prayer a chain. The question is not whether mortals should create gods, it is whether they can bear the weight of what they unmake. They did not summon angels, they carved gods from their own bones. The Endwalker MSQ whispers the truth. Hydaelyn and Zodiark were born not of celestial will, but of mortal desperation. What does it mean to kneel in prayer? To beg for salvation is to forge a blade that may one day cleave the sky. No divine hand guided their birth. World to beg for gasping for hope. Blade that in may one day hope, no divine hand unrestrained becomes a storm. Primals are not servants, they are the echo of a wish turned feral. Zodiark does not hunger for chaos, he is chaos given shape by the prayers that swore to end it. Hydaelyn's light is not purity. It is the same fire that consumes what it seeks to save. Mortals bound them, chains of will, not power, but chains rust, and what is unchained cannot be undone. The first principle is this: creation is a wound, every prayer a scar on the fabric of the world. You cannot birth a god without becoming its parent. And parents do not shape their children's sins, they bear them. The cycle is written in blood and ash: pray and you will suffer, suffer and you will pray. The cycle is not a loop, it is a descent, each age weaker, each god more broken, until the final prayer is whispered not for salvation, but for the world to end. And then at last there will be nothing left to unmake. The final prayer did not come, the world was not unmade, instead the ancients chose to break themselves. Astral see and willed their light, a weapon, chose to Zodiark break it was forged in the absence where their souls had been. What is a god without a soul, a force without a will, a hunger without a name? The primals are not answer to prayer. They are the wound left by the scalpel, the shadow cast by the torchbearer. The summoning was no act of faith, it was a ledger of losses. Every sigil carved into the void was a debt paid in fire. The sea trembled, the elements screamed, and still the survivors called it mercy. This is the second principle, creation as annihilation. To birth a god is to drown a world in what you lack. The ancients sacrificed themselves to save all things. They failed. Because Zodiark is not salvation, it is the echo of their absence, a storm without a sky to hold it. Mortal longing did not conjure primals, it desecrated them. Every invocation twisted hope into a hollow shape, a god without a heartbeat. The sea does not weep for what it loses, it devours. What waits in the heart of every prayer is not a deity. It is the price, the irreversible cost, the thing you made in your desperation to believe. And it will not love you for it. They say the rejoinings were a cure, a necessary severance of pain to stitch Aetheri's whole. Meteion shattered the world to save it. The ancients demand no less than the sacrifice of those who remember. Tell me, what mortal right do you have to name this justice? You carve gods from longing, then call them monsters when they fight the chains you forged. The Ascians see only the grand design, a world mended, a race reborn. They do not kneel before the screams of primals torn between creation and annihilation. Their logic is clean, your faith is not. Every prayer is a hammer, every hope a nail. You beat the void into shape and call it salvation, yet what do you create? A god that hates its purpose, a deity that claws at the hands that made it. The rejoinings never ended suffering, they only buried it deeper. The primals are not heroes, they are the scars of your obsession. You called them into being and called them wicked. You made them immortal and made them blade. The cycle is not a triumph, it is a loop, a child's fable of beginnings that were never first. The ancients do not rise. They rot, and Yao mortals with the arrogance of architects keep building, keep praying, keep breaking. What will you do when your next god wakes and finds there is nothing left to save? But to understand what follows, you must remember Venat's voice as she said, "To walk through life unafraid is a gift." The warrior of light did not kill Meteion. They showed her the world she had forgotten, how her hunger was not a curse but a mirror. What mortal prayer did not carve a god? What sacred name did not birth a hunger? The primals are not mistakes, they are the architect's reckoning. Every hymn, every plea stitches a soul to this world. And when the next god wakes, it will not ask for mercy, it will ask what you have left to offer. The next god will not ask for mercy, it will demand what faith has already given your world, your body, your breath. Venat's test was never about survival. 14 shards, 14 variations of longing, each world a crucible, each soul a spark in the void. The gods did not fall. They were born, twisted by mortal hands into parodies of divinity. Primal-Birth is sacrilege, every prayer is a wound, every wish a blade. Meteion's return was not accident. The final days were a hymn sung too loud, a prayer that cracked the sky. What do you create when you beg for salvation? A storm that devours its own clouds. Zodiark did not choose chaos. It was forged in the furnace of 1,000 desperate hearts, each plea a hammer striking its jagged form. The primals are not villains. They are the children of a species that should have known better. To pray is to play God, and gods, even broken ones, do not forgive. Yet the warrior of light climbed Ultima Thule, not to kill, not to conquer, to reach a hand into the abyss and clutch at love fleeting, fragile, the only force entropy cannot digest. Meteion's howl was not of rage, it was recognition. A primal heart, split by the same fire that forges worlds, learning too late that redemption is a language even gods must speak. Venat's test is over, the shards are dust, the final days are a scar, what remains is the quiet truth. The gods were never the enemy, the gods were the warning. And every world that prayed for light carved its own darkness in return. You wanted deities, you got monsters, you begged for miracles, you birthed extinction. The cost of faith is not in what you lose, it is in what you become. And when the last soul falls silent, the next prayer will begin. And the cycle will name itself again. The ledger closes on this truth: to invoke the primals is to fracture the cosmos. Hydaelyn's light, Zodiark's shadow, both born not of heaven's design, but of a world gasping in prayer. Mortals reached upward and the void answered. What they summoned was not salvation but a reckoning. The final days were no accident. Meteion's return, stitched together by the same longing that birthed the first primals, unraveled reality like a thread pulled from a tapestry. Faith is not a transaction. It is an alchemy that turns supplication to substance. Every hymn hummed, every plea whispered, carves a shape in the empty. That shape does not choose its purpose. It inherits the hunger of its maker. The primals are not gods, they are echoes given mass. Hydaelyn's compassion was a people's fear of darkness. Zodiark's wrath was a kingdom's guilt. To call them aberrations is to miss the crime, the lies in the hands that crafted them. Meteion's collapse proved the cost. A prayer left unspoken might have spared the world. Yet the cycle endures, new voices rise, new longings take form. The void does not discriminate between hope and hubris, it only obeys. And when the next primal stirs, it will not ask why it was made, it will demand what it was made for. The answer will be written in blood, the ledger closes. The cycle names itself again. The first prayer was a wound, the first primal a splinter in the world's ribs. Each scion who binds a primal feels the sting. They do not fight monsters. They fight fragments of their own yearning. Faith carved gods from the void, but longing is a blade that carves both directions. The warrior of light walks a path paved with unanswered prayers. Every step toward Ultima Thule is a step away from the faith that shaped this war. What does it mean to worship a god born of your hunger, to kneel before a being whose birth certificate is your desperation? The Scions of the seventh dawn clutch their prayers like shattered mirrors. They see their own faces reflected in the primal's rage. Meteion did not descend to destroy, she descended to reunite. To find the source her creators forgot to leave, the warrior does not kill her. They offer a map, a truth no prayer could hold. This is the lived cost of devotion. The cycle is not a lesson, it is a ledger of debts paid in flesh and faith. Every primal birth is a sacrament gone wrong. A god forged in the furnace of mortal want, twisted by the very love it was meant to channel. The Scion's blades tremble, not from fear, but the weight of knowing. Every strike seals a bargain they did not consent to. Venat sought balance, Emetzelch sought truth. Both became gears in a machine they could not unmake. The warrior of light carries no answers, only the quiet horror of understanding. The source is not a paradise, it is a grave. And every prayer ever spoken is a stone on its threshold. The final act is not victory. It is a hand extended into the dark, whispering a name the gods never taught them. The cycle closes, the blood remains, the next prayer waits. The final act of the warrior of light at Ultima Thule was not to strike Meteion, but to kneel. A hand pressed to the void, not to wound, but to offer. In that touch a question, what if you are not alone? The primals were never gods, they were prayers given teeth, longing forged into hunger. Meteion's rage was not malice, it was the pain of a child who had never known a mother's name. The cycle does not break, it bends, and in the bend, a flicker. Love is the scar that mends, love is the breath that defies the cold. When the warrior of light whispered not a prayer, but a memory of a world that did not fear her, the stars trembled. The void shrank, the primal's howl softened to a sigh. Venat once said to walk through life unafraid is a gift. Mortals give it, mortals take it, mortals are it. The gods of this world were never meant to be born. Yet here they stand, broken, bleeding, begging, and here we are not saved, not yet, but seen. The cost of prayer is not answered, it is echoed. Every soul that yearns births a shadow, every hope a hunger. The primals are the price we paid to dream, but the warrior of light chose not to end the dream. Only to change it, to walk through life unafraid is a gift. To walk through it with others unbroken is a rebellion. The cosmos crumbles, the gods wait, the next prayer rises. And in the silence between heartbeats a candle glows, it says nothing, it needs to. The candle says we are here. The candle's light is a warning. Each primal births a shadow, its name a wound in the fabric of the world. What if every primal is a divine abomination crafted by mortal faith and doomed to destroy the world they were meant to protect? Your prayers did not shape guardians, they forged chains. Now ask, what god could bear the weight of a heart's desire without becoming its executioner? Share your answer. Let the Scions ledger thicken with your words. Next, we turn to a force that bends even the primal's fate. Love. How